Okay, we are right on time, so I think we will go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the third and final webinar of our series. If we haven't met before, my name is Marcella Poloski, and I'm the Business Development Rep here at ERP-One. Before we get into it, I wanted to provide you with a background on ERP-One and who we are. We are an ERP solutions provider. We provide consulting for JDE in technical, application, development, and project management. We also provide long-term support via staff augmentation or managed services. Our team has over 20 years of experience working with clients as an extension of their own team, and we pride ourselves on our client-centric approach. Our goal is to help customers get the most value out of their ERP investment. Today's presentation, Maximize Efficiency with JDE Update Manager, is presented by Nick Wilson. Nick is ERP-One's innovation and technology lead and has been with ERP-One for 15 years. He specializes in project management, digital transformation, architecture design and review, and upgrade planning execution. As always, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please drop them in the comments, and we will make sure to address them at the end of the presentation. And if by any chance you miss some important points, please note this is being recorded. I will now pass it on to Nick for the presentation. Thank you and enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Marcella, and welcome everybody to this last webinar in our first series here. This one, as Marcella mentioned, the topic is JDE Update Manager and using it to the best of your abilities. And so the approach here for this webinar over the next half an hour will be to show and uncover the various tools release components that go into the JDE Update Manager and how they can potentially fit into your continuous delivery or your continuous adoption solution. And so with that, we'll get started. The overall goal of JDE Update Manager is to reduce the time needed to implement various components, specifically ESU fixes or other components that Oracle has delivered. Previously, it would take a long time when applying these updates in a cumulative way. And JD Edwards has started the process or started the development of correcting the time it takes to implement and roll out these features. The difficulty really comes in the amount of administration and touch points that various CNCs and other resources, either internally to your organization or externally, need to apply and be part of the project. So the overall goal is to reduce the need of those resources and to streamline that process. And so on the screen here, we see a small graphic where this is a generalization, a summary of applying one ESU or potentially applying a cumulative update. The overall goal or the overall steps are fairly similar. And we're going to explore how the JDE Update Manager will solve some of those common problems through the different releases. And so the journey really starts with a customer problem, a need for a feature, a user story, however we call it. And that need really spawns either an update being delivered by Oracle or a feature that the customer wants to adopt, essentially, that they think will provide value to their system. Those features will go into, a project lifecycle. They'll get promoted through the different environments, but the general steps that need to take place will be to apply any once that ESU is installed. We need to apply different configuration of that feature or component. If there's retrofitting or redevelopment that can take place, it will fall into testing through to quality validation and then deploying into the production environment. And so the JDE Update Manager will be part, and its features will be part of this cycle, as well as other JDE features. So the value here from the JDE Update Manager side is that it will increase the visibility of the net change, allowing for project planning to become more effectively, understanding, again, what your scope of the project is the first part of that project. The second, it also reduces a lot of the manual effort that CNCs or administrators will apply or will go through as part of this project, and it will help make their lives a lot easier. This won't be an automated system. And again, although that is a great goal and one that I know many customers are looking at, there is still some steps and some safeguards put into place here. JD Edwards, myself being a technical person, I know all of the ins and outs of JD Edwards from the architecture perspective. And JD Edwards allows customers to create their own architecture requirements via different environments, path codes, infrastructure, and all of those components are part of the answer, part of the equation when applying updates. And so the tools that Oracle provides allow administrators to pull the right levers at the right time in order to deliver a successful project. Further to that, a lot of automation and updates that we'll see. Again, it's not possible yet, but we can complete tools and ESU and UDO updates with some customization. Finally, the goal from Oracle's perspective and from customers and ERP-Ones is to have JDE instances adopt a SaaS-like approach to updating, where these updates are, rather than pushed, which is a software as a service solution would do in terms of biannual updates. So every 6 months, a new update is released, and then you could adopt it on potential SaaS solutions. JD Edwards is following that methodology approach, but rather than having it pushed on to customers, customers can adopt all of the great automation features, but apply it at their own schedule, on their own sort of timelines as well. And so it continues the approach of allowing customers to really utilize the system as best as they can for their environment. So the agenda for today, with that being said, is very simple. We're going to look at the different releases or the different features for the last 3 releases with regards to Update Manager and how it can help you in your system here. So from a high level, this is the ESU application approach to updating the system. And so the top part of the screen, we can see the Update Center, which all updates are coming from. And the normal course of action would be to download the update through Change Assistant, and then it would be able, using the deployment server, apply that update right into Planner, and then you can deploy it into the rest of the environments. With JDE Update Manager, you're able to download the update as you did previously, but through Change Assistant, you can push updates through JDE Update Manager orchestrations directly into the database without the need for the actual deployment server or the solutions or the logging into the Planner environments and then putting the ESUs into, or deploying each ESUs into each environment. The update, another component of Update Manager is to further remove itself from, or potentially give the customers options to apply updates without the deployment server or change assistant whatsoever. And so customers are able to download updates directly from updatecenter.oracle.com, and they can be applied directly through the web client. And so that is outlined on the bottom left there, where we can have two options of how we can apply or get ESUs into the database and allowing customers more options to apply those. Regardless of which method these updates get pushed into the system, we're able to run an impact analysis, which is really the most critical part of updating or applying any ESUs into your system. As I mentioned, it provides the scope of the update in terms of testing, development, or retrofitting, as well as highlighting the features and SARs and potential process changes that might be applied to your system. And so when we look at defining what is Update Manager, its goal is really simple, but what comprises Update Manager is not as simple. And although it is a tool in the toolbox, the JDE Update Manager won't, as I said on the first slide, give you a turnkey or a magic button. It gives you the ability to create your own magic button if we needed to, but the components that are contained within the Update Manager can really be classified into these 4 items here. And so certainly Change Assistant uplifts are a part of that. As we saw, there is some changes where Change Assistant needs to access the AIS server. There's toolset enhancements, providing various uplifts that are internal on the Java code side, pre-delivered UDOs or the web objects that support changes to web applications, orchestrations, and anything UDO oriented. And then, of course, there are changes or delivered ESU uplifts that change core applications to support these features. And we'll go through all of those there. The last or the first box in this slide shows Server Manager APIs. And this item I wanted to save to last year to show or outline because it's a critical part to almost all automation or continuous delivery approaches, which will be to have the ability to communicate to Server Manager and have it perform some refresh style tasks. When we deploy changes to the system, we need to know users that are on the system. We need to, potentially manipulate or send calls to Server Manager. And these helper calls really support the overall process, whichever it is that, however you define it. And so again, in a simplified way here, these APIs that were released in 9.2.1, and really it was with the advent of the AIS server, they have exposed APIs from Server Manager that will allow access to automation type of software to connect into it. And so with this sort of architecture or background information in mind, we can start to plug together the different components that are available within the different releases. And so getting into those ones now, we will go through those different features and components that we can string together or work through together that will give us the overall solution that we want. So the first one is the dependent packages collection. And so when applying or downloading ESUs from Change Assistant, there's a new option to allow us to see all of the different packages that are available as part of the ESU. And so when we go to download a new feature, there is there are always related ESUs that need to be installed. And understanding what those ESUs are previously was only available when you applied the ESU. Now, with this feature, you're able to see the dependent packages prior to downloading, and then you're able to understand how they will be applied once you apply to your system. We're going to see in a later release, as we're going in chronological order, that there are some additional enhancements that will allow these dependent packages to either be applied, or if they're already applied, they will be skipped when downloading and implementing or deploying to the environment. As we saw with the Server Manager APIs, Change Assistant also now connects to the E1 system through the AIS server. And the AIS server is the key component to most of the enhanced features that we're looking at today. And it unlocks a lot of value, or unlocks a lot of technology, and is the go between Change Assistant and JD Edwards. And so with Tools 926, we're able to make a connection from Change Assistant to Server Manager, or sorry, to the AIS server, and then allow those orchestrations to run and deploy directly to the different environments. This will help streamline and again remove the deployment server or the dependency of the deployment server from the entire process. And ESUs downloaded as PAR files are deployed directly to the system database, where we can then action them in a later time here. Finally, the Change Assistant updates also includes a comprehensive impact analysis. Building on the first one with the dependent packages, we're able to see really clearly the different ESUs that will be applied, and comparing or executing a net change against what's already applied in your environment. And so Change Assistant has the ability now to see or is exposed to which ESUs are applied to the different or various environments. When using Change Assistant, you can see clearly which ESUs have been installed to DV. And then when you go and run the impact analysis against DV, you can then see the net change in totality. This again will be able to provide scope for the upcoming upgrade or the application or deployment of the ESU, and it will give you the retrofitting and testing guidelines of where to look when moving forward. Further to that, special instructions and the included tracking of special instructions has been moved from essentially a manual method, and JD Edwards gives us a table now to be able to write and track what the special instructions are and whether they've been completed or not completed. These are features that will be continuing to build on each other so that an automated process can take place, but that the information is stored within a table. Another feature which I really love and is part of our overall approach on many managed services customers is the ability to create a parent-child object relationship. And that means when customers and users of JD Edwards make a cloned object, you can identify what the source object was. And so if you're a developer, if you go into OMW and you create a copy of an object, it's called a clone. And that clone has the ability to keep the source object metadata attached to it. And so really where this applies to us here is when we go ahead and download an ESU where the source object has been updated in, previous to this feature, we needed to cross-reference all of our customizations and understand if the source object is updated, the cloned R55 or P55 object may need to be uplifted as well. And again, in the previous to this feature, you needed to do that with a manual method. And so now we can clearly see all when we run the impact analysis, even though the object may be a 55, customers can see that it would be part of the scope of change when looking through that impact analysis. And so the next component, moving on to release tools 927 or release 23, is the applying of ESUs directly from the web. The value here is you're able to remove many of the Windows components of the system where you need change assistance and you need to apply those ESUs through JDE Plan or the planner environment. With this feature, which is a classic ESU plus some modern UDO or some modern objects wrapped up together, you have the ability to download the ESU or the PAR file from Update Center without change assistance. All you need is an Oracle account to do that, or a group of ESUs. They can be batched together. And then that update can be applied right from within JD Edwards. So the update, the software update screen, which still would be an administrator utility, there is a form or a row exit, and then you can import those PAR files and apply them to the environment. The process for both Change Assistant and the ESU software update via the web is exactly the same. The logic that gets executed is the same business functions, but the front end is different between Change Assistant and the ESU. And so whichever method you use, even in a mixture, the software updates will apply in the same way, and they look the same regardless. So we can see here as a reminder that this is our little diagram. And so the bottom part is what we're looking at here now. The software updates via the web. If you applied those PAR files or that ESU, those features through the web, they would get inserted directly into the database and would bypass the change assistant path there. And so some of the features would be a lot of those ESU components being loaded directly into central objects, and those updates can be orchestrated potentially, whereas the change assistant cannot be orchestrated. And so by that I mean you can create a process or an orchestration from this software update screen versus Change Assistant where you cannot. Moving on, although not directly JDE Update Manager related, it is applied at runtime. There is a feature to update there's a feature that will automatically apply table conversions when you deploy a package. And without getting into some of the details of how it does this, the purpose of having this feature, grouped into JDE Update Manager is, fairly simple in that when we download ESUs, right, that process we've seen has been simplified and we can automate or orchestrate it. When we go and apply the update to the environment, There are Oracle delivered tools and utilities that will automatically do the package build and package deployment. But one of the manual tasks that CNCs and administrators previously needed to do was to run these table conversions on their own. And so the goal or the value, as we saw earlier, was to reduce the hands on the system. And so this feature significantly reduces some of the manual overhead, especially with regards to table conversions, and essentially more of the complex tasks that was needed previously have now been automated and simplified. Going back to the change assistant and some of the features, a simple one here is for the update credit within the application system, the application update credit for ESUs, in that when we would install or deploy a cumulative update for JD Edwards, customers needed to understand that when subsequent ESUs are applied, when it looks for those prerequisite ESUs, the customer needed the system would not understand if the cumulative update already applied those ESUs for you. So it is a lot to do with the net change between, has the update credit been applied to the system? Is it being evaluated when new ESUs are applied? And the features that go along with that update are really allowing the download of these ESUs to be removed from the list. And so an example, and again, I know that this is a more complicated feature that is hard to describe. And so the way that we've described it internally and to our customers is that if we installed a new system and applied a cumulative update right off the bat, and then it would install the fixed current of all the system. So there's really just no ESUs installed and only one cumulative update. When we go ahead and install the next ESU that gets released by Oracle, it would go through and try to download all of the requirements, the pre-requirements, even though none of that was required. And so this feature now will give the system a credit and say, okay, instead of downloading all of the ESUs again, I know that these prerequisites are included in the cumulative update. And so that would be release 24, release 23. Those are the ones that are released in November timeframe. Continuing along, the software updates and the software update application is the UBE log file and the ability for it to be accessible directly from this software updates application. When we go and apply ESUs using JDE Update Manager, if everything goes really well, the system works properly and the PDF files would show no errors. In many scenarios, however, there could be the application of the ESU. Although the PDF shows successful, there may be some issues in the log file that need to be looked at. And so back to the value of removing the heavy touches from administrators and CNCs, this feature will give customers and administrators the ability to look at the log file directly from the screen that you apply the updates. Excuse me. It's a minor feature, but one that really greatly enables administrators and potential automation to happen directly from the same screen here. I mentioned the impact analysis with the latest release. So that's now we're in release 24, so November of this past year. The impact analysis itself has been updated. The original, based in Change Assistant, has been migrated to the web, and Oracle has provided some more robust features and graphics outlining both the impacts to the system, layering in object tracking, which is the screen on the top there, as well as many different it applies the object tracking, the parent-child relationship components, and special instructions all in one screen so that you can clearly see where the specific impact will be if you decide to apply that ESU. Moving on as well to the latest release in May of this year. A couple more on the not minor side, but they are more on the interesting, and they will help us again reduce the overall time spent applying the updates. And so this one here is uploading the cumulative or the release 23 or release 24 ESU cumulative update through the web. Prior to release 24, you could only apply ESUs or a batch of ESUs, but you could not upload the actual cumulative update until now. And so some of the value here is, or some of the things that Oracle has done have been to reduce the size of the cumulative. Previously, it was very large, and it's a lot smaller now, so that you can upload it through the web front end without crashing your server, which is the main benefit. Some of the features here, as I mentioned, again, the reduction of size and the ability to deploy from the web without the deployment server and without Change Assistant as well. So on the administrator side, with the cumulative updates or with single ESUs, the manual tasks that come along with those ESUs were always done post-installation. And these special instructions were manual up until Tools 926 when they were migrated to the JDE Edwards and stored in a table in JDE Edwards. And with this latest release, we now are able to enhance that table to include a couple new, most of the types of special instructions. And so those are the web UDCs, or sort of the UDC enhancements. So each ESU can consist of special instructions that are UDC oriented, data dictionary or glossary enhancements, as well as other manual special instructions. And so rather than just tracking each of these, we now have the ability to execute some of these automatically, and then they are tracked within the Manage Special Instructions application. So when we apply an update via Change Assistant or the web, but we can only see this information from the web, however, we can go into each of these updates and then see easily which of them have a manual instruction, which has a UDCs that need to be merged, and which have glossaries that need to be merged. And so this still, again, it allows the ability to be automated, but there are scenarios where we need these levers to be controlled by administrators, because overwriting glossaries ad hoc would not be a great thing. This is your data dictionary. Similarly, with UDC values, these are customized for your needs. And so these need to be looked at, but if we want to apply them, we can do that through this utility, and we can check that out here. So this screenshot here shows the data dictionary glossary merge, which again, previously was not on the web. And you can see here the status of whether they've been implemented or not. In this scenario, they are not implemented, but we could go through and check these off if we wanted to. Similarly, this is the user defines code or UDC merge utility, which again is on the web now and allows us to see if these UDCs are merged and whether they've been completed and who's completed them. And then finally, although not necessarily automatable, orchestrated, you still can see and track these special instructions manually. And so that component still exists today and is accessed from that same screen. And so as a summary here, or if we want to learn more, really, it's that JD Edwards Update Manager is a main component to pulling levers on your continuous delivery or adoption approach. Your process certainly can be automated, but it does not come pre-automated. So there is some architecture that needs to be put into place, as well as all of the various change components and other components we've put here. And then finally, the Oracle delivered UDOs are a great place to start this journey. And so with that, I will hand it back over to Marcella for any questions.
Amazing. Thank you, Nick. We are a little over time, so we will just do one quick question. It is, does this reduce any downtime or disruption for my upgrades?
Yeah, that's a great question. And certainly it does reduce the JDE Update Manager itself will not reduce downtime per se. The components within will act the same way when we do these updates. But what it does allow us to do is get ahead of potential troubleshooting that may need to happen and allow administrators to apply these more rapidly, as well as having more information at their fingertips to ensure a successful deployment.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, so much for joining us today. As always, I will be sending out an email to all attendees with a recording of a webinar. And in the meantime, please check us out on LinkedIn. We're always sharing blog posts and some helpful tips. And keep an eye out for our next webinar series in the fall. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.